I guess. Look, Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we will anymore.
Well, I don't want to, speak out against the administration, but I also don't want to take responsibility for everything the administration's doing.
So it looks like Elon Musk and Donald Trump are breaking up, and this might actually be the worst breakup Trump's ever had. It's kind of wild how just 4 months together took Elon from loving Trump as much as a straight man can, whatever that means, to trying to turn his supporters against him. And right now, it seems like the public doesn't have much faith in Elon. It only took about 15 tweets for his net worth to drop by $34 billion.
This is going to come up because it's been going on since we've been recording here. Elon and Trump seem to be in a bit of a spat. Joe, you want to check the tweet that Elon just put out a little bit ago?
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ.
But if you look at his track record, this isn't anything new for Elon. He notoriously always gets ousted. If you look back to the early 2000s, PayPal replaced him as CEO while he was on vacation. Even a few years ago, while he was running Twitter users literally voted him out as CEO in a poll that he started. And now, Trump has basically ended his role as the White House whisperer. And honestly, I think part of why Elon's so upset is because he made his proximity to Trump his entire personality.
Together in Saudi Arabia with the president last week, with Sam Altman. In the same place at the same time.
Sam was in the neighborhood.
Okay, so does...
Like, come on. Elon seems like one of those guys who lies for no reason. You know those guys who they're lying and they know that she know that they're lying, but they still lie for some reason? I don't know, he just gives out those vibes. But I'm not gonna lie, this breakup does feel different. Trump isn't insulting Elon as expected, and it feels like either Elon's rushing to burn down his empire, or maybe he knows something that we don't.
You saw a man who was very happy when he stood behind the Oval desk, and even with the black eye, I said, do you want a little makeup? We'll get you a little makeup. But he said, no, I don't think so, which is interesting.
I can't help but think that there's something bigger happening here. And I think I'm finally starting to understand what it is. It's a silent battle between power and resources. Trump being the power and Elon representing the resources. And for the first time, we might actually get to see who's really in charge. All right, so most people properly predicted that this would happen back in January. But I don't think anyone predicted that Elon exposing Trump to be on the Epstein list would be the tipping point. I understand that sometimes you have to work with people you don't agree with if it serves a bigger goal. But let's be real. Everyone knew Trump and Epstein were friends. Epstein even bragged that Trump's first time sleeping with Melania was on one of his planes. This isn't a secret. So to turn around and try to expose someone for something you were fine with after they break up with you is incredibly weak. If you really thought he was involved in funny shit, why didn't you draw the line at pedophilia? And why would you parade your young son around someone who you thought had funny shit going on? I remember watching a Christmas episode of The Kardashians like 10 years ago, and when they were panning across the guests of their party, they showed Elon in the distance. That's when I realized Elon's the kind of guy who just wants to be in the room with whoever's popular at the time. And he probably wasn't cool enough to be in Epstein's circle back then. But if he was, I think he definitely would have been on the planes too. I'm not saying they were all doing nefarious shit. I'm just saying back then Epstein was in the mix and it was easy to fall into conversation with him. Plus he was like donating to people's charities and creating foundations and doing shit like that. And if we're being honest, I think Elon only thought this would be a powerful allegation because when he said it about Bill Gates a few weeks ago, he got a wild reaction.
Who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he frequented Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay, well, he said he regrets those, and he spent a lot.
But Trump isn't Bill Gates. One of Elon's biggest flaws is that he can't help but announce who his enemies are. Elon's shifting to MAGA was only because Biden refused to invite him to an EV summit back in 2021, which, if we're being honest, he deserved to be invited to. But this nigga lost his mind over not being invited to the summit. Literally, Trump and Elon only like each other because they share the same enemy, Biden. But the enemy of your enemy isn't always your friend, especially if it's Trump and Elon. Because now he's beefing with Trump because Trump's pushing for a $250 annual fee on EVs, and he also wants to kill out some of the mandates and subsidies that have made Tesla so valuable. This whole thing does feel like a con-off, like who can dupe MAGA the best? And you gotta credit Elon with the birth of drill politics. In hip-hop, drill music is music where people threaten their enemies in the songs. Well, drill music eventually led to drill content creators, and now we have drill government officials who threaten to use their resources against their enemies. This shit is crazy. But if you look at the whole scenario from a logical perspective, it doesn't seem like Elon has much leverage. It seems like a black and white situation where Trump can crush Elon's companies by canceling all of his grants and subsidies. But both Trump and Elon aren't necessarily acting as though that's the reality, which is making me question, who really has the power here? I'm starting to think Elon Musk isn't just acting alone. He's the voice of a larger group of billionaires who are using him as their crash dummy to just go out and get shit done. And Trump knows if he crosses Elon, they'll make an example of him just to show future presidents what'll happen if you step out of line. Kind of like those mafia movies. But I don't know, maybe that's my imagination. This isn't the first time billionaires have had control of government. Think of it like this. There have always been black people in America who had money. Not many, but they existed. And they did everything they could to assimilate and fit in with white people. But in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, the drug dealers, the athletes, and rappers started getting money too. But they didn't want to fit in. They wanted to show it off. And that made the old money black people nervous. And I feel like that's what's going on in politics right now. Billionaires have always controlled the government, but they understood that part of keeping things civil was keeping it a secret. But fast forward to the 90s and 2000s, now you've got these billionaire tech geeks who can't help but show it off. They want everyone to know that they can buy whatever they want, including government. But I know most people are joking about who's gonna get custody of Joe Rogan in his divorce, but that's the right question, but about the wrong person. If you really want to know who's in charge, just pay attention to where Kim Kardashian drifts over the next few months. That'll tell you everything. You know Kim is locked in with the Trumps and the billionaires, and she doesn't play about getting next to the authority in every room. But I also want to say this. I used to think that Elon would never recover from these last few months of damage to his personal brand, but I'm not so sure anymore. This is the emotion economy, and if you can attach yourself to enough of the causes and fights that people currently care about, they'll look past your past transgressions. We just saw with Candace Owens and that Blake Lively situation. Unfortunately, you'll know you're on the right track when people start saying things like, I can't believe you guys are making me agree with Elon, or a broken clock is right twice a day. Those are like the telltale signs that somebody's doing a rebrand. It's sad, but that's the reality today. People are very, very fickle. But hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next video.